Hey, welcome back to Vox Terra. If you have not done so, please do subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell so you know when I'm putting up a new video. Today I want to share with you a CNBC article about a developer in California building a 21,000 home development project for housing, residential housing, and mixed use that is supposed to be net zero in carbon emissions. And I also went and read for you a few articles from the Sierra Club, Natural Resource Defense Council, and a really neat publication, Building Green. And that article is titled, The Problem with Net Zero Buildings and the Case for Net Zero Neighborhoods. Whether you support capitalism as a solution or oppose capitalism as a solution, either way, it's important to have a checklist as to what greener, less impactful buildings look like. We'll start with the politics. Well, from the CNBC article, one of the people quoted in there claimed that part of the reason why this is happening, this large net zero development, is due to the environmental politics, due to environmentalists holding up development in court for so many years, forcing developers to take a closer look at greener development. Additionally, I would add that if we look at California's politics, it's generally Democratic right now, and right now the Democratic Party is more responsive to environmental organizations. Now, the CNBC article lays out some means that this development is supposedly achieving net zero. Solar panels on the building, EV charging, both private and shared, high-performance attics to reduce the need for heating and AC, air conditioning, geothermal heat exchanges to heat the pools, recycled wastewater from irrigation, drought-tolerant and combustion-tolerant landscaping, as well as carbon credits and offsets. Now, when we get to the carbon credit and carbon offset list, that's where there's some controversy, or could be. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of debate about whether or not carbon credits are actually effective in reducing carbon emissions. So, for example, one of the carbon credits cited, the developer is purchasing 170-acre Pine Creek forest and created a permanent conservation easement, as well as created conservation set-asides for the endangered Sonoma spine flower. So these conservation set-asides are laudable for a number of reasons. Yes, wilderness in general will sequester carbon. That's what the forests have traditionally done. But not all forests are alike in this regard. Older, more mature forests are better at sequestering carbon than our younger forests. But so are healthy forests. And with climate change, formerly called global warming, coming down like a ton of bricks, we can see how the forests are under stress. Rising temperatures are facilitating bark beetle infestations, which then weaken the forest and make them more susceptible to wildfire. Rising temperatures are also pulling more moisture out of the soil and the air, leading to drier conditions out west, again making them more susceptible to wildfire. Turning the forest in some cases from net carbon sinks into carbon emitters when they burn. So some of the steps taken here are relevant towards a generally net zero home, building, or neighborhood, and greener development, more sustainable development in general. Well, let's look at some other factors. So according to Building Green, use of passive solar, meaning and building orientation, meaning how your building is set up in terms of capturing sunlight in winter, or sort of blocking or helping dissipate heat in summer, can save as much as 50% of heating and cooling energy costs. While we can think about those ancient Pueblo Indian designs, those ancient Pueblo Native American designs, where they had very thick-walled mud brick construction with very high vented windows to let the heat vent, and the thick walls for more natural insulation. Metal roofs. Consider the roofing material. Now, my own studies on metal roof is a metal roof is a recyclable, reusable product as opposed to a tar asphalt roof. Additionally, metal roofs, according to what I've read, have a higher reflectivity to reflect heat off of the building. Especially true with the white color, helping replace some of that dissipating ice, which is the Earth's natural air conditioner, that being the Arctic ice caps and the glaciers, which we are losing. Consider the building's power source. The most general go-to is solar panels placed on the building. In America, it's much more taboo or less acceptable to place wind turbines on one's property. However, in Germany, my understanding is rooftop wind or residential wind is quite common. The energy storage solution. And with heating and cooling also, consider simply being able to naturally air condition your building or home through simply being able to open your windows. Now again, there's window placement and window design, but there's also just being able to feel comfortable opening them. In the old days, people put security bars on their windows so they felt comfortable in a high crime area opening them at night. In today's culture, people like to pretend they don't live in fear, keep their windows locked, and blast their air conditioning. So here I would add security bars on the windows that have fire escape methods in place. Now back to heating and cooling, I'd mentioned the swimming pools in this development were using geothermal heat exchanges. Well, that's also something that can be used to heat and cool the home itself or the building itself. And that's a great technology, really underknown and under talked about, where you simply dig wells into the earth to tap into that stable earth temperature. It's kind of like if you've ever been into a cave or even a basement. It tends to maintain a certain stable temperature. So these geothermal heat pumps can be operated on electricity. They can be operated on that solar or that wind power, and they're pumping up that stable temperature into the building, both providing cooling in the heat or warmth in the winter. And that's why you often hear environmentalists talk about electrification and letting go of natural gas hookups, natural gas cooking, because natural gas is another fossil fuel and a large contributor of methane, and the fracking boom looks like it's the most likely culprit for some of the recent spikes in the Earth's temperature. Now, we think about other less impactful methods of having a home or a building. We might think low-flush toilets, in some cases, composting toilets, pesticide and herbicide-free lawns. That comes into the not doing. What's planted on the lawns, like are there trees and shrubs to help sequester carbon, help filter pollutants, help provide habitat? Is there any, now this I'm also adding here, are there any fruit-bearing trees or plants that are appropriate for the climate you're in to reduce your need for shipping of foods and that type of thing, and also to provide food for the wildlife? What's the building made out of? Is it made out of sustainably harvested timber? Now this will get us into questions of, is it preferable to retrofit an existing building or build something new? My take, as a longtime environmentalist or someone long-time influenced by the environmental movement, I think about reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I would prefer to reuse an existing building and retrofit that. Now here's where Build Green then is advocating for, rather than looking at net zero buildings, look at net zero communities. One interesting point they make is that it's easier to certify a particular building net zero if it's lower, because you can put the solar panels on the roof. But then that also creates problems if you want to have shade and trees around the building. They point out that taller buildings or multifamily taller buildings are generally less impactful on the environment, requiring less infrastructure and less sprawl. So the taller building could be powered by wind turbine or solar panels that are located elsewhere. They could still run on the geothermal for the heating and cooling purposes, but it would be tougher to get just rooftop solar on that building alone. So Green Build has a quote warning about the looking very myopically at only one particular element of a solution and not the whole picture. In other components, you want to think about walkability and bikeability. Is the neighborhood mixed use so people don't need to transport around as much? Power storage solutions seem easier to me on a community level. Like for instance, yes, you could have a single family home equipped with a backup battery, but other power storage solutions like pumped hydro really require a larger scale. Now Build Green also points out something really interesting called the Living Building Challenge. And that Living Building Challenge requires that buildings are constructed on already developed areas, also again to reduce sprawl. So is this California FivePoint Valencia development truly net zero? I don't know, but it provides important guidance for how we are going to create a checklist for what greener, healthier, less impactful, more carbon neutral development in buildings and residential living looks like. So hey, I hope you found this video super helpful, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. You've clicked that notification bell. You're liking, you're commenting, and until next time, peace be with you.